Our minds as humans are not just logical robots. We don't just look at ancient history or even things today and think to ourselves, oh, yes, 2 plus 2 equals 4. We don't do the arithmetic in our heads and always come up with the right answers. No, because we are very biased creatures. We have anxieties and things we don't like, things we avoid, confirmation bias. And one of the most obvious, evident examples of this is how Amon Hillman's followers respond to critique, to things that make them feel uncomfortable. So we are going to respond to how people responded to the conversation between Neil and Madalena. So we've talked about the how that conversation went, but we have to give a recap. We're going to watch just a short little clip of basically a summary of how me and a lot of other people thought about the conversation. It started with Neil being like, hey, what is this extremely basic concept that you learn in day 2 of Greek class? And she didn't answer. She couldn't know the answer. They talked about Satan and how her understanding of ancient history around the word Satan and later concepts of Satan is sorely lacking. Uh, I'm like the cringe conspiracy theorist level of lacking. Uh, but the most of the conversation was just around the idea of sources. What is Amon's source for the burning purple, for these concepts of Jesus doing this thing with the kid? Like, obviously, there's Mark 14, but like, where is Amon getting the idea of this prepubescent semen that is needed and all this other stuff, or the other drugs that is talked about? That's what we're talking about in this conversation. So, what? How does uh, Amon's prize pupil? How does she respond when Neil asks her for the sources? Because you'd think it would be obvious. Amon has talked many times about how she's the best student, how she learned Greek the fastest, and she was awesome. Someone even made, I don't even know if this was Amon or what. I think I don't know exactly who made this, but uh, somebody ranked the people in the group. You have Amin and then his daughter at the top, and then Madalena is right there at the top there. Uh, everybody everybody knows that this Madalena girl she's at the top of this group. So you would think that the top student of a group that is talked so highly of would just be like an expert in all these other stuff here. Maybe not as good as Amin, but pretty darn good. Okay, she should be able to name the stuff that Amin talks about all the time off the top of her head. She should be able to give the source and the number because she's had this conversation so many times. But what do we actually get? What do we actually get?
It's all about purple, extracting purple from prepubescent children and using it for the mystery rites. None of that exists in any primary sources, not one,
Oh my
zero.
God, there's
Where,
so many. It's
show me one.
literally everywhere. It's literally
Show me
in
one.
the Bible
Show me
everywhere.
one. Show me one where it says that a prepubescent child is used to extract purple drugs for the mystery rite. Show me one right now. One, just one.
One God,
Can
right
you name
now.
one primary source?
God, right now, she says it like it's such a big deal, like she's just unprepared, even though she was coming onto this channel to discuss the the ancient sources. And maybe you might say, okay, maybe she was like planning to talk about Satan or something else, but surely she knew that Amen was going to be mentioned. Amen's claims. The goal of that conversation was to translate things. So why is she at such a loss of words for something that should be pretty basic that Amen supposedly talks about all the time?
One. Call Amen right now. I'll give you as much time as you need. Call Amen, find one primary source that mentions children being extracted with burning purple.
There's so many aspects. You can look at like the oak sauce. You want to look at the vinegar. You want to look at,
What about it?
the Mary Purple Fingers, those sources.
What
You
about
wanna
it?
look at her using her hair and Jesus wiping his towel on the feet and all of the sexuality
you
in the
find-
Bible. Yeah, it's all.
So you find one source mentions the word purple, another source mentions burning. They're 200 years apart from each other, but we're going to put those together. Then we find another source that says makes a bring a child to the ritual, and put that one in. You just guys have a whole soup of sources that you just throw together. Can you show me one
I'm
primary?
talking strictly about the Bible itself.
Can you show me
So-
one primary source from antiquity anywhere? 1,000-year range, 500 BC to 500
You don't even
AD.
give me any time to prep. This is such BS because
I'll give
No time to prep.
you
you're
as much
trying
time
to
as you
put
want.
me on the spot when I haven't even
But you
had
don't have
time
any.
to.
I've been asking.
So by the way, Amin was in the chat. I think there's good reason to think he's still in the chat. I can almost guarantee you that Madalena could call Amin right now. She could call Chewy. She could call any of her friends in the group, and if the source exists, she'd be able to do that. Neil recommended she do that. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna wait for it. Go for it. Give me the source."
For
Trying to
years.
research. You're just trying to be a dickhead.
How do you
and
not
put me
know
on the
one
spot
source?
and be like, look at all these sources. Blah, blah, blah. Like, come on.
How do you not have
I
one
didn't
primary
come
source?
here to be like, look, Omen's wrong. Look, I'm gonna shame you. No, I came here
Yeah,
to
you
read some
deserve it.
motherfucking Greek.
People like you
and
who
follow
Okay, I wouldn't say that she deserves being shamed, but I think this is a clear example of she's just what's the word? She is trying to postpone. She's trying to stall to think of something to say.
lead
about
people astray,
language and
you
talk
grift
about its
people,
beauty.
you lie to people,
No,
you
I
make up
don't
bullshit.
lie to people. I tell
You
people
can't
to
even
look
give
for
me one
themselves.
primary source. You can't even give me one primary
One
source
primary
for burning
source?
purple. Yeah, for burning purple being used in ritual.
Here, let's look at that one that you say, about the burnt purple, the one that you talk about
The
past tense.
Ascordes. The Ascordes.
the
We can pull
Ascordes.
it up.
You
Yeah, we can pull it up.
pull that one up because I noticed that you missed something about that.
Oh, did I?
Talks about you did. You forgot the
Okay.
burning.
Hold on. I'll pull it up. Give me 1 second.
Do I
Better. You face. I mentioned. I don't know why. I
screw?
that they fucking that.
You
burning
show-
purple.
I'll find it for you right when you pull up those Ascordes.
It's not
Here,
burning
show
purple.
me that purple that's
All
burnt.
right, so they have a hard time finding course of she should know what the reference is, but hey, whatever.
Source in here.
Let's see. Oh man. Okay, let's look. All right.
This is not even an active participle, by the way. So it's not burning. It's one burnt. I'm in light about that too. You should know this. You did. You should know. You should know
Let's see,
endings.
hold on.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something.
It's one of the-
It might have been on the next page, but that's okay. It was this word, it was causticoi, that was being used to describe it. And that is a specific word that is talking
But
about
this is the word, this
acidity
source
and
right
it's
here.
burning.
It says right here, K kaumenon, when burnt.
I know, but that's not the one that I was thinking of.
I would agree that I think that in a conversation and debate, you should allow someone to think. At the same time, it tells you that Amin clearly has not prepared this girl at all. This is the source that everybody talks about because it's the only slight possible thing that could be even an ounce of truth about what Amin says, and she's just meandering her way through the text. Think about it this way, okay? When you are a PhD student, you have a dissertation, okay? And if the dissertation is on a specific passage, you will spend tons of time reading over this passage, whether it be Hebrew or Greek or whatever. You'll understand in English. You will understand all the debates behind it. And what happens is you know a text so well that you can, as soon as you flip it open, you'll know exactly where you're at. You'll be able to say, for example, Genesis 1:27. Okay, in the image of God, He created man. Um, if it's not 127, it's like it's around there. Okay, that's not me memorizing. Like I didn't go around and look at the text and like memorize. Oh, this is what Genesis 1:27 says. No, but like I've had so many conversations with scholars. I've had so many different conversations, debates about this. So I can just think of what these topics are about the Genesis 1. The different topics of what happens on day 1, what happens on day 2, what happens on day 3, what happens on day 4, just like right off the top of my head, not like flexing or anything. Like this just happens. Like you'll know you'll either be the English or the Hebrew. Like you'll be able to read it and just off the top of your head, no, shoot, okay, that's what it is. Because that's just what naturally happens whenever you're reading a text a lot. Okay. And for someone like Madalena, who should be like devouring her way, I mean, she talks about how she's like, searching for all the wisdom and all this other stuff like all the time. Like this is something she should know, that she should be able to pull a text up like this and be like, okay, yeah, so that's the section on this is the section on that. Maybe I'm like thinking too highly, but like at the very minimum, like she should generally have a good idea of what the text is. But there's just a lot of meandering. She doesn't like one. We had a hard time for thinking about what even a source was as far as the evidence that she's talking about. Then when she actually looks at the text, she doesn't know where she's actually looking at.
Wow.
This is the only source that mentions it.
In the next page, I read the source and I was talking.
Oh, here's what you're talking about right here? Okay. So the same effects that produce burnt.
You're right. It does make you look like a jerk, which is what we'll talk about.
Burnt shells. Kerukes. By the way, this is not even from children. This is from the shells. This is from the purple shells. So this is what makes no sense to me. You guys say it comes from children. Which one is it? Does the purple come from children or does it come from the shells?
The purple comes from the shells. The antidote comes from the children.
So the antidote comes from the children. Where is the source about the antidote from the children? Do you mix them together? Is that how you make burning purple?
I don't know. It comes from the.
This is why it makes no sense. You have one source that mentions burn purple right here, and it doesn't. It just says it's for beer. It's for healing and stuff like that, right? It's for like we agree. This is some medical usage. There's some medical usage being used with the purple shells, but nowhere does he ever say, oh, by the way, if you take this and mix it with children's semen, you're going to get some sort of drug that's for the mystery rites. There's not a single source that mentions that ever.
This is the face somebody makes when they spent all kinds of hours watching Ammon's videos where he just flips through a bunch of words really quick, doesn't teach you how to actually read a text. And then when you're actually shown what the actual text is, then you're lost because you're like, hey, I thought that Ammon told me this, and I don't see that in the text.
0. I would know. I would be making videos on it right now if it existed. I wanted it to be true.
Well,
I would make tons of videos.
Searching because
yeah.
Yeah, if I had more sources to give and
you don't have any
to argue, like I would bring them, but I didn't have any time to prep because I didn't even think this was going to happen tonight.
Can I ask? All right, let me ask you this.
Okay.
If you can provide me a single primary source that talks about excreting what is it called? Antidotes from children to make burning purple for the mystery rites. If you could find me one primary source, I'll never talk about Ammon Hillman again.
The lovely thing about this is that Neil and Stephen know Ammon's views better than his own students. Ammon's top student is like a deer in the headlights. And yet Neil and Stephen like know all the different sources. Like Neil can pull up a PowerPoint that Stephen has made and he can just go through the sources. Like almost every single source that Ammon's ever made, that he's ever referenced, that he's ever essentially lied about. you can pull up everything, and then almost every single one, he's gotten a little PowerPoint. He's prepared, like they're ready to go. They've talked about this, they've debated it with different Ammonites. And then we have Madalena, who is just like completely lost.
And I'll promote your channel for. I'll have you on and promote your channel. I'll do whatever. But the number one thing is I'll never talk. Amin's name will never come on my
sure that there's definitely some
Yeah, she's sure it's definitely some
Galen crazy stuff going on.
No, I dug through Galen. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
But you know what I'll say? It's from the untranslated.
I'm sure that you.
Galen is the source that Amin talks about all the time, that he's so proud about, that he is like, oh yeah, Galen, he's got all this, and he's got so detailed, and it's got the code and the ritual and all this about the prepubescent boy, and you'll never see the source. Never, not even one. It's completely fabricated. And then you have someone like Madalena who doesn't have a clue what the source is, but she just assumes that's right. She assumes it because a big part of her identity and reality rely on it being right. So of course it's right because he's a PhD and I spent all of this time and he sounded so smart, of course. So to this conversation where Madalena just shows just no knowledge about barely anything at all. This is supposedly Amin's best student, is just like pretty embarrassing. Okay, like if I am an Ammonite, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is really odd, really odd that this student that is Amin's best student couldn't think of any of the sources. And the ones that he didn't clearly show anything. And by the way, we didn't even talk about how she pulls up the source. She's like, oh yeah, it's definitely in Dioscorides. And then when they actually look at the source, there's like no argument. She's just like in her deer in the headlights because she doesn't even know what she's looking at. Because she thought that, oh, it must be in there because that's what Amin said. But then when you actually look at the text, she has no idea. So if I'm an Ammonite, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Amin's a great guy. He's really smart. He's got a PhD. She clearly was not prepared for this. Neil was mean. I don't like how Neil did that, but she's got to at least do better. She's got to. How could she not know about these other texts? How can she, like, she is Amin's best fan, best student. How could she not know about the other texts? And of course, I'm like, well, I don't know about the other texts either, but surely she does. Surely she should, right? Because she's the top student. How could you not? And then I'm like, okay, so maybe she didn't know the source, but the source that she did mention, they talked about and they debated. And Neil clearly showed that she didn't know what she's talking about, that she is completely lost. So what is the appropriate way to respond to this? The appropriate way to respond is to be like, hey, okay, I mean, there must be something gone wrong because clearly she's not prepared. Amin should be able to teach her better. In response to this, there should be a response for her to be like, hey, okay, I came unprepared. I should have known better. The arguments that I even gave weren't very good, because if they weren't very good, you'd think it was pretty obvious they weren't very good, because whenever they were brought up, it was like obvious that she didn't know what she was talking about. And then there was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not what I thought it said. Okay, whatever. A bunch of times that happened. A good way to respond is to be like, hey, okay, so I came unprepared, but here are actually the sources. I got more time to think about it. I care about truth. You have 241,000 subscribers. Therefore, I want you to know about the data, the information. You might not be convinced because, people are biased, and your enemy's always the biased one, right? But at least I want people to know that there are the sources. So let's go put it in the chat and see what the sources are. Or you do a video with Amin and you show what the sources are, you show the evidence of what it is, you go back and be like, okay, you know, I messed up, but I know there's other sources out there and there's other evidence, so I want people to know about it. That's what you care about. If you care about truth, you know, we talk about like, oh, Neil's doing this for the money and he's lying for money and he doesn't really care about truth, okay? So let's actually show what truth looks like. Truth looks like correcting when you make mistakes. Truth looks like giving strong reasons, evidential reasons for what you believe, and asking them to be challenged because you care about truth. Because you're not going to just stick in your echo chamber because you want to be proven wrong, because you want to make sure that you're right. That's what if you care about truth, that is your goal. You want to be proven wrong, which is why on every single video of these, maybe not every single one, but almost everyone, I'm asking people, critique me, show me I'm wrong, because I want to learn. What do we get from Ammon's followers? Let's take a look. All right, so this is just like a bunch of responses to this video of what I think anybody in their right mind would say, hey, this is a not a good showing by Madalena. Okay, so this person says, to label a guest as an opponent says everything. No honor, no calm, no patience, gross me the F out. So this is a pretty obvious example of some truth behind a critique, but no actual taking the data for what it is. Okay, this person, Ja Mortram, he did not make, or he or she did not make another comment critiquing Neil or showing the source, which is what you'll basically every single comment of this is. It's just talking about side topics, because when you're in this mindset of your identity relies on Ammon being right, the views being right, Madalena being on your team, because you associate Madalena with yourself. Your identity is connected to her because that's like the group mindset. You just like in some ways, Neil, I associate myself with Neil, so I kind of have my like identity with Neil. So if Neil is wronged, then I might feel attacked in a slight way. And you know that's normal human behavior. You still have to pay attention to the bias around it and how you would respond to that. Just because Neil makes a mistake or is shown to be wrong or is mistreated doesn't mean that I should go getting emotional about it and say a bunch of false things to try to defend myself or him. No. So anyway, so this person, you know, I can't prove what I'm saying here, but it seems like this person saw that Neil is, you know, being a little bit aggressive, saying some mean things, and you know, ignoring the fact that Ammon does this constantly. Ammon is always constantly saying bad words. He called Neil a rapist, saying all these wild things about other people of his enemies, making up all kinds of nonsense stuff about Neil being a January 6er or being a Zionist. All this nonsense stuff. Instead of this person looking in the mirror and thinking to himself, my best friend Ammon does stuff like this all the time. So shouldn't I be a little, you know, reflective of it? No. So what happens in these conversations is people feel anxiety. They feel stress when they are challenged, when their views are challenged, because their identity is in these views. So for Neil to attack, when I say attack, I mean critique and maybe even say some mean things to Madalena, they interpret that as attack on themselves. So it's not just ideas we're talking about. They see that as an attack on themselves. So when this person sees, hey, Madalena is not giving the sources, how do they interpret that? And they don't even know they're doing that. We as humans, we don't know we're doing this because we're super biased, and it's just like a reflective aspect. You know, we can talk about the psychology behind it, which I do in my Upcoming book, Testing the Teachers, Hidden Psychology of Christian Authority. We can talk about the psychology behind it, of System 1 and System 2 thinking and all that other stuff. But the bottom line is, our minds, they think instinctually. And some people, they see their person getting attacked and they don't think like, oh, okay, what is the logical argument here? What is the best way to respond? What does this say about the credibility of Amon Hillman or Madalena or Neil? No. Some people, it's an automatic response of, I feel really uncomfortable, I feel anxious, and therefore I am going to find the quickest thing I can do to discredit Neil so that I don't feel uncomfortable again. And you see this in all kinds of different debates. In Christianity, with apologetics, you'll see people where somebody says, oh yeah, there's a contradiction in the Old Testament, and that's why Christianity is wrong. And you'll see all kinds of apologists saying, there's no contradiction. That's just a hyperbole or a metaphor. And they'll just make up completely nonsensical stuff. They'll say stuff like, Moses wrote about his death because he was inspired, even though it's like nonsensical to say that Moses is writing about his own death. Like, why would he want to do that? There's all kinds of problems with that. But what happens is people will look for the thing that relieves their anxiety. That's just human nature. And then they'll just stick with that because, hey, my anxiety is resolved and I don't have to worry about it anymore. Neil was just being mean. I don't need to watch this anymore because Madalena, I already know it's true. I don't need to watch a debate. Learning, that's not even something that crosses people's minds because they are thinking about, how can I relieve this tension, or how can I make myself feel better about myself because I want to feel like I'm right. And how do you do that? Oh, the other opponent. If we just say, oh, they're a jerk, then that's an easy way to make yourself feel better, because like, oh, well, of course they're a jerk because I'm right. And that's why, that's the same thing Ammon does. He's just like, oh, of course they're doing this for money. It's like, that doesn't make sense logically, but it doesn't matter because that's not what they're worried about. So this is what we're going to see a lot of. So he's like, gross me the F out. And what he means by gross is not like gross, like, oh, this is some like, PDF, or this is an abuser or something like that. No, what he means by gross is actually a little introspective. What he means by gross is, it gave me a lot of anxiety. It made me really uncomfortable. And of course, he's trying to like say something bad about Neil's character. And once again, I'm very against the idea that of Neil's aggressive position in some of these debates. I'll be open about that. Neil knows that. And I don't think it's the best way to convince somebody. I don't think it's the best look in general. I think Neil's commenters of his own fans have said similar things. And I think Neil has learned a little bit about that. At the same time, I think that it doesn't excuse you. Like, Neil's arguments still stand, and Madalena still look dumb. So yes, so this is a clear like distraction. This person seems to have just gone to the first thing. Oh, this person made me look. This person looked bad, and boom, there you go. All right. So what about the next comment? Okay. So this is a someone, and what they say is, here's a highly regarded peer-reviewed academic text written by a rabbi linguist. Hebrew is Greek light, Joseph Yehuda. And this text, whatever, that's not too important there. Maybe just make sure there's nothing else we need to add. And yes, okay. So this is a comment on the video, and Neil, like, they barely talked about the idea of Hebrew in the Old Testament being written before the Greek. Okay, and there really wasn't much of a conversation about that. And this person who doesn't really make any other comment about like other arguments in the conversation or bringing up sources, this person actually, I don't have a screenshot of it, but this person actually um, made this comment a couple of times. And one time they said, hey, this is the source for what you're, some type of view or whatever. But like this isn't even a primary source. So like that whole conversation about sources, it's a different conversation, but whatever. Okay. They were confused about primary source, but like, so they're bringing up somewhat related, but still zero argument given. So it's just like this would be the equivalent of just saying me going on this video and saying Ammon's right and look at his book. It's like, well, like that doesn't actually prove anybody wrong. You're not engaging with any of the conversation. Okay. And what does Neil say? He says that's the least regarded book in academic history among linguists, and he's pretty much right because it's a book that has extremely poor argumentation. Every scholar has rejected it today. There's no reason to accept what is said in the arguments are nonsensical. But of course, it's going to be impressive to someone like Ammon because he's trying to get some kind of credibility, and it is trying to get some credibility from somebody else. So if you're Ammon's fan, you're looking for some other credibility to back up what Ammon's saying because Ammon is your identity. So what I found really interesting is this person at Kalb, and he or she might even watch this video because I know they do comment. They say, why do you always target the authority of sources you don't like instead of the content? I guess it's easier. So this is another example of this person just like discrediting Neil himself instead of actually engaging with the data. So if this person knew anything about scholarship on this topic, they would know that this book is a nonsensical book. It's a horrible book. The arguments are dumb in there, like just to be straightforward. And we know so much more about ancient texts now. Like maybe they know a little bit less then. So like maybe it's kind of possibly a little bit understandable why somebody out there would say that. But no, today we have so much evidence going against us. And not only that, but like they should know that this book is not going to convince anybody either because of its credibility. Like this is like going to this is like somebody makes a claim about aliens and then they bring up like Atlantis and pyramids. It's like that's not a credible source. Like there's no reason why we should just simply trust what they're saying, right? It's like if a doctor says, hey, you need to do a surgery, and then somebody in the waiting room says, oh no, you don't need to do a surgery. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and I wrote a book, and therefore I know you don't need to do a surgery. You should just go drink some mineral water and that'll solve your problem. It's like nobody's going to take that seriously except if you really want to believe it, except if it really matches up with your identity. And what this person is doing, not addressing the arguments, they're simply using it as an excuse to target Neil's, his reasoning so that they can reject what Neil is saying. So they don't actually have to take him seriously. And once again, let me remind you that there's just tons of these examples of ECAL has no idea that he's even doing this. He doesn't have any idea that his brain is just skipping a step, which means that we need to be extra humble and think about how to challenge ourselves. So this is when we talk about not having pride to think that we know everything. Okay. If you check in the comments, my videos, half the time I'm asking questions, okay? Because people will make a claim and I'm just simply like, why should I think that? Like, give me the reasons that I should think that so I can know whether I should think it or not. What is the evidence for what you're saying? And, it might be a little bit more argumentative if I already know a little bit about it. But at the end of the day, we should all be looking to learn. We should all never think that we know everything, that even the people that we're talking to that seem like really dumb and that they seem like they're doing it all for the money, we should still be willing to learn from them. I mean, it would be crazy. It would be absolutely crazy to think that all of the scholars Neil has had on his channel that have spent their entire lives studying these ancient texts, that they're all dumb. That there's a person, Ryan, on Neil's channel the other day, and you know, he seems to be a fan of Ammon. Ryan, you might even be watching this, and he is a fan of Ammon, and in prior videos, he's actually, you know, he's talked with Neil and Stephen, and Ryan said some stuff that's like really questionable, and then he seemed like a really big fan of Ammon, and then later recently he comes on the stream again, and you could tell that he's really learned. You can tell that he's been watching, whether it be Ammon or whether it be Neil or Stephen, whoever, whatever research he's doing. Like, he's clearly not just listening to what Ammon's saying. Like, he was willing to say, hey, I think Ammon's wrong here, but I think he might be right here, or something like that. And that's okay to do. Like, don't live in the 0 to 100. It's not all or nothing. Okay, there can be truth in the middle. Some people, like Ammon, are right about something. Some are wrong. Sometimes he's wrong about some things. And we have to have humility to realize, hey, we actually could learn something from Ammon. Okay. Now, if I'm trying to make the best use of my time, I'm probably not going to listen to Ammon. Okay. I'm probably going to listen to another Greek scholar, because there's tons of them on YouTube. Okay. But at the same time, we have to have humility. Okay. That means listening to the people that make you uncomfortable, learning from, and not just listening to debunk, which is what we'll see in a lot of these comments, but listening to try and learn, actually understand what their arguments are, and then see if it's worth listening to. All right. So let's go to next one. All right. There's another comment. Bro is being paid to do this. This is obvious by the churches. Now, obviously, there's no evidence for anybody ever for saying that he's a church. He's not even a Christian. He doesn't get paid by Christians like that. It's ridiculous. He makes all kinds of videos going against Christianity. Like, this is like one of the most clearest examples of somebody just commenting just to comment, to relieve that tension, to make themselves feel better, or to maybe like try to shame Neil into stop making videos, which is like a ridiculous idea in itself. So, you know, I can't psychologize this person what actually is happening, because this is like way out in left field. But bro is being paid to do this. This is obvious. No, like, it's not obvious at all, actually. And if only what Ammonites don't realize is that someone like me and Neil, we could get paid tons of money. Neil has tons. Neil himself has made tons of money from Ammon's views, not critiquing them. When Neil was interested in Ammon's views, when he was like, hey, there might be something to this, he had Ammon on the channel, and he talked about Ammon's views. He gave arguments for Ammon's views. And Neil has a bunch of videos where he's got thousands and thousands of views, where he's made money off of Ammon. Okay? I mean, Ammon has an even bigger audience now. Like, I can make tons of money if I accept what Ammon says. Neil can do the same. But like, for some reason that doesn't cross people's mind. They think that somehow I'm going to make more money critiquing Ammon, or that Neil's going to be paid by the churches, like, which is, you know, ridiculous. Like, and another thing is that, hey, if I'm part of Ammon's group, just like I, as a Christian, am critiquing Christians all the time. Like, Christians hate me on my other YouTube channel. Christians hate me because I'm critiquing other Christians all the time. The biggest apologists, I've probably critiqued them at least once. So this person, if I'm an Ammonite, I'm going to critique them, because it's like, no, we gotta stand on truth. We don't need to care about all of this money stuff, because that's not a good argument. But here is the source that we should care about. So let's talk about that instead. You know, correct other people so we can learn together. And I want to be critiqued myself, as I said before. Okay, so this is another person that comments on my channel. He says, Heraclitus describes you, Neil, in his first fragment. Okay, what does it say here? Here's the translation. Maybe not be perfect, but it says, "But of the word of that being, men become wiser and more ready than to hear and hear the first. For since all things are made according to the word, they are tested, and of such things and works, as I speak, dividing each according to nature and saying where it is. But of other men, things that are made, things they do, things that are done, things that are seen, they are mistaken." All right, so why you needed to quote this, Heraclitus? Like, how does that give any credibility to what you're saying? I don't know. But yeah, this isn't just another personal attack. Like, why not? Hey, Teleforus, why not integrate Telesphora? Why not actually engage with the argument? Or what is the benefit of doing this? This person is only just making themselves feel good. Oh yeah, you're dumb, Neil. You have no sense of humility. You should listen to others. What is that going to do? Like, Neil several times in that video asked for sources. How is that not listening to others? Okay, let's see. What else? What other comments do we have? Okay, this is a super telling one. So Madalena, after this video, she goes and comments. She doesn't go and bring the sources, even though she said multiple times there are tons of sources. She doesn't bring any evidence. She doesn't correct anything she said. She doesn't have any ounce of humility. What does she say? She says, "I did not approach to the threshold of speech to wrestle with you, nor to stain my hands in the ash of your prior quarrels. I came as one consecrated, as a keeper of tongues. You drowned me out with super chats." What is she even talking about? That whole clip we had, there might have been one super chat, maybe, and she had plenty of time to talk. "I arrived to express as a bridge of the language, from which all beauty and intellect and reason was birthed, and generated to whisper what was once sung, what could be healing." Okay, so obviously she spent a lot of time thinking about how to comment here, think about how to respond. She, look, why does she use such odd language? Why does she try to like write in some kind of poetic way of thinking? Like, what is the benefit of that? Why would she go through all this effort when she could have just, if there were actual evidence for it, why wouldn't she have just shown their sources? And then what about Ammon? Because she has a direct line to Ammon. She can talk to Ammon pretty much anytime she wants. And did she even ask Ammon for the sources? I don't know. That seems doubtful. Why if you care about truth, why are you not willing to say, "Hey, yeah, I don't actually know any of the sources"? It's like, is your world going to crumble if that happens? If Ammon's wrong about something, is the world going to end? Can Ammon be wrong about some things and right about some things? Of course. So why is this a big deal for you to say, "Hey, yeah, I messed up. I was wrong about this"? I mean, she made so many claims in this video, and yet there's no sense of like being, "Hey, yeah, I messed up." Like, it's okay to mess up. That is okay. I do it all the time. I've probably done it a few times in this video already. All right. So let's see what else we have here. Then she says, "Hear me, Mother Greek is not to be patronized. Beauty is not seen, but she's just talking nonsense. Like, none of this has anything to do with what she's saying. Like, this is just some big, hey, look at me. I sound really cool. Hey, Ryan, good to see you in the chat. I talked about you earlier if you didn't see that. So yeah, be like Ryan, okay? Be like Ryan, okay? If you see something where Ammon seems to be making a mistake, be willing to say that. And also be willing to say, "Hey, I think Ammon's worth listening to for this and this and that and this. And also, he makes mistakes here." That is okay. Be like Ryan. All right. Okay, so this is how Neil responds. He says, "This was a fake, performative, probably AI coping, nonsensical comment that I couldn't even stomach reading more than 2 sentences of." Right. As you saw just now, I couldn't even read it because it was nonsense. You could just skim it and it's just clearly nonsensical. Then he says, "Did you bring the sources for the previous child being used to extract antidotes for burning purple mystery rites?" Didn't think so. All right. This is the moment. This is the moment where you show Neil's audience that there was some truth to what you're saying. This would solve the problem real quick. It might not convince everybody, but at least you would know that there was some legitimacy in what you're saying. But no, they don't even care about that. And by the way, there's another thing here, is that why do they not want to bring a source? Well, because there is no source. And if there is a source, they'll bring it, and then it'll be like nonsensical. It'll be like no real reason to believe it. Okay. Um, but why don't they just say, "Hey, I was wrong. Like, there's a source." And like on a when you're thinking about this, when you're in Madalena's shoes or somebody else's shoes, you're not thinking, "Oh gosh, it's gonna be so terrible if Ahmed is wrong." Like, because you're not even thinking like you have that anxiety, that uncomfortable feeling about the entire idea of Ahmed being wrong. So your split reaction is to say something else to avoid the topic. You're not going to be thinking like, oh, is Ahmed right about this? Is he wrong? What is the evidence for this? Where is the source? I don't know what the source is. Like, they're not thinking about that because you're just completely avoiding the conversation. Let me tell you a story. So at one of my old jobs, there was this guy, and he really struggled with being wrong. There was one time when we had to we had a process at our job where we put the files, like the little Word documents, in a specific folder. Something that is just like basic, like not really that difficult, but hey, he was relatively new, and he was putting in the wrong place. So I go up to him and I'm like, hey, it's really, really, really not and I'm like, this is like pretty much my exact words, really not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Okay. Like it's seriously not that important. But in the future, like it would be helpful to do this. So by the way, the boss wants it to be in this folder, not this folder. And as soon as I start talking about this folder and hear how you realize that, oh, he made a mistake, like he didn't think, oh, let me think about what was I thinking about in that moment? What are the best reasons to do this and that and that? No, he was not thinking about that. You know what his reaction was? His reaction was, did you hear about the weather last night? Something completely out of nowhere that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. And I'm like, no, I didn't think about the weather, but like, you understand what I'm saying about the file? And he's like, but lunch later is going to be really good. I'm like, well, thank you. I appreciate it's that. Yeah, lunch should be pretty good. Okay, but like you do understand about the folder, like, and like he would interrupt me, be like, just nonsensical, completely off topic, because he just could not get around the idea. He just could not even fathom. Just could not. It would not think about it. Hated just his split reaction, like when you're driving a car and you have that location in mind of where you're going. You're not thinking about, okay, I need to take a left here and I need to take a right here. Like all that, your mind's in autopilot. It's the same thing for this guy, because he could not just process in his mind the idea that he was what could be wrong. Like it made him so uncomfortable that his gut reaction is just first reaction was just completely change the topic. The same stuff is happening here. So like these people, they cannot even just process. It would break their brain to process the idea, oh, there's not actually a source for what I believe, for what Amin is saying. Okay. So I think we skipped a one here. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is why you don't ever get a source, because like the brain is skipping. Okay, it's skipping. The way you treat your guests here said a lot about your character, Neil. You were nasty, combative, and consenting. So, like, there might be some truth to that, okay? And at the same time, what about the arguments? What about the evidence? No, this is just a discounting of Neil, so we don't have to talk about the evidence. And someone says, yes. And it appeared very clear that he feels extremely comfortable doing this to a seemingly meek woman, too. This video had nothing to do with sources. Nothing to do with sources. What are you talking about? We just watched a 10, 15-minute clip of all they were trying to do. Neil wanted the sources. They bring up a source. She has no justification for the source. Of course, it's talking about the sources. And all to do with his own insecurities and animosity with Hillman. Okay, what about her? What about, now, you won't see in this comment one mention about her problems, her lack of argumentation. The source material was just to cover. The real was intent just to be mean to her. Psychologically, see, you gotta love this. Okay, these people think they're all psychological experts about, oh, they do this because of the money. They don't have a clue about psychology. Psychology is extremely complicated and difficult. Yes, I'm talking about psychology, but I also have a background in psychology. I am in school for counseling, which requires to know a lot about psychology. I'm writing a book on psychology. I've done tons and tons of research that was extremely boring in a lot of different instances. But I'm also someone that I'm going to try to have a lot of humility of being like, hey, I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm a little confident in sometimes too many places, but at the same time, I can tell you with high confidence, with certainty, if there's anything I'm certain of life is this, okay? Psychology is complicated, okay? And this is a clear example where whatever they're going to say, whatever we're about to read is just going to be totally off, okay? So he says, or this person says, psychologically, typically when a person makes constant snarled theological statements like "I hate liars," well, they usually make those constant statements to deflect from the fact that what they claim to hate. Almost always, you'll find this in the human condition. Is that right? Is that right? What does that have to do with what Neil said? How does that have anything to do with what Neil said? Of course, Neil hates liars, right? But why does that have anything to do with what Neil said? There's no connection there at all. Not even like a single little bit to what Neil is having in this conversation. Like, where is actual commentary? Where, like, I mean, and by the way, of course, like, the person doesn't give any reason to accept what they're saying, of course. Okay, does Ammon just show what he claims are sources without ever telling his audience what they are? Imagine trusting that, huh? So this is maybe not even a feeling of Neil, maybe it is, but like this is a serious question, right? This is one of his top fans, his top followers. Madeline is a top follower, and then this person, Jim, is asking like a legit question, like, does Ammon not tell her what the sources are? Like, this should seem obvious, right? So what does someone say? Someone says, no, Ammon always clearly shows the source. Always clearly shows the sources. Okay. And then why would Madeline have such a hard time bringing the sources up then? And why didn't you just bring the sources up then? If Ammon's clearly showing his sources. And not only that, he actually teaches his audience to read Greek for themselves. Is that right? Teaches them to read Greek. Okay. Is that what we saw in this video? Gnostic informant here was a student of Ammon's, but he only got to Unit 4, which is really basic. Maddie completed all 20 units of the Hansen and Quinn intensive Greek course. Is that right? Well, then why do we see in this video Neil reading the Greek, Neil answering questions about Greek, and then Maddie not being able to understand basic stuff about Greek? Not only that, whether or not Neil is at Unit 4 is irrelevant because that happened a long time ago. So of course he's done lots of Greek learning since then. So why does it really matter? And notice, by the way, how like this person never really addressed the actual argument, which is that Madalena was not showing the sources. Like, so once again, there's like every single one of these comments is like not actually addressing where the conversation is. Every single one of these comments is doing my coworker did by not addressing, hey, yeah, that file needs to go in that folder. And all these Ammonites want to talk about the weather. They want to talk about food later. They don't actually want to talk about the problem at hand. And so Jim responds, why wasn't Maddie capable of producing anything that made sense? And by the way, she made no sense in this video. It was a bunch of conflation built on assumptions. Neil was still better than her regardless of how far he made it with Ammon's regiment. Kind of embarrassing for the teacher. Right, exactly. I think that is a serious problem here. If your best student, your most knowledgeable student, someone that supposedly completed all 20 units, if that student doesn't know the basics, the very basics of the conversation, what does it say about Ammon as a teacher? Neil, why are you so defensive? Like about everything. You came out mad and she sensed it within the pre-show. She's a lady, not Yoseli. If you are right, then just righteously know you are right and walk away. Let them be wackos if you believe so. Why are you so bent out? You look hurt more than you look correct from this. Is it because you thought Ammon was cool and that he told you to stop talking to him? Feelings hurt much? So yeah, there's a lot of like psychological assuming going on here. Everybody loves to psychologize their enemy, right? Neil, why are you so defensive? Like about everything. So that is certainly a good question. It's certainly a good question. Why is Neil so confrontational? Maybe there is something going on there mentally, trauma related. Who knows? Why does Neil feel comfortable to insult someone to their face? It's a great question. Maybe it is somewhat related to Ammon and he feels wronged by them. And maybe there could be some bias there. But that doesn't have anything to do with the arguments, okay? So it's just more psychological nonsense, not actually responding here. All right. So, Darko, shame on you, Neil. If this was antiquity, I'd challenge you to the gymnasium, minus the intellectual aspect, and put you in the dirt solely based off your behavior and attitude. So this Darko person is actually threatening him. If, technically said, if this was on antiquity. So what? So in antiquity, it's okay to do that, but not today? Like, this interview was highly unprofessional. You better get your ego under control before you're ready to destroy yourself. You can't read Greek. You read translations of the Greek. You don't know what you're talking about, Neil. Does butter fly? Sums up the extent of knowledge you have of Mother Greek. So this butterfly thing, Neil made a grade level argument that someone would be learning in like the first class of Greek or of English in general. And Neil was saying, hey, just because the word butterfly has butter and fly in it doesn't mean that it's literally like the dairy product butter flying around. Like that's obvious. It's basic knowledge everybody should agree with. And somehow this person Darko and Bori and Ammon's group and all these other people think it's smart to act like saying does butterfly is like is dumb. Like look at the mirror. Oh my goodness. Okay. Once again, zero addressing any of the arguments. Unprofessional. You watch a man scream in his camera, oh God, and whip the floor as he talks about Jesus and naked kids. Shut up about unprofessional. I mean, it's interesting because Neil is actually addressing the argument. This person's argument is, hey, you're unprofessional, and there might be some truth to that. And maybe Neil should be like, hey, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been that aggressive. And maybe Neil is deflecting just a little bit. At the same time, that's a serious point. How can you say Neil is unprofessional for the insulting when Ammon does that 10 times worse? And then makes all these crazy comments. How is that professional, but what Neil's doing is not professional? Hats off to the patient guest. But my favorite part is where you trick your guest into stepping into an ill-prepared situation so you could perform your well-prepared super attack after super attack and piss on one of Ammon's students. Just stay calm and slay Ammon. This is not just one of Ammon's students. This is his prize student. And not only that, but Neil in the video, Ammon comments and says, hey, Maddie, you got to run because this is dumb. He's hurting you. And then Neil says, hey, just come on the channel. We'll have a debate yourself. We don't even have to worry about the student. Ammon, Neil, let's go at it. But Ammon ran. So that's why this person says, Ammon ran from the challenge. He showed up in the chat and refused to debate Neil on stream. Keep coping, dude, but your leader took a serious L here. Now, why they misspelled serious, I don't know. But yeah, this person clearly just not addressing any of the arguments. Once again, attacking character. This is what I would call cope. Okay. All right. So, anyways, it's been fun, guys. That is all the comments. This is just one video, and I get these comments on every single video, every single one that I've done of Ammon. Maybe 99 out of 100. I'll get comments like this that don't have anything to do with the arguments. Okay, so hopefully this has been a good little intro into why people respond the way they do, why people avoid it, and a reminder to always be humble, always be willing to look at other opinions, no matter how dumb they are. Now, you got to be careful with time. You don't want to spend all your time listening to some homeless person off the street that doesn't know anything about scholarship. It's probably going to be better to listen to actual scholarship. The people that are experts on the topic. So, sure, be careful about what you pay attention to, but also be willing to go outside of your comfort zone. Listen to people that don't know what they're talking about every once in a while. Listen to people and actually try to understand what they're saying. Listen to people that disagree with you, that you really, really dislike. If you're an Ammonite, that means going on MythVision and watching Neil's video, not Neil, Steven's video, where he has 4 hours of responding to Ammon's arguments. Okay. And then what you'll do is, even if you disagree, even if you think that Stephen's dumb, is you go and respond in the comments, because actually Stephen will respond. Or you message Stephen and say, hey, I disagree with you because of this. Where am I wrong? Don't be like, hey, no, you're wrong because of, you know, you get money for this, even though Stephen doesn't get any money for that. You're wrong for XYZ. Like, yeah, sure. Bring your arguments to the table why you think they're wrong, and then actually listen to Stephen. Actually listen to Neil. Actually listen to whoever to see if you're missing something. Because as you've seen in this video, it's really, really easy to just ignore what the opponent is saying, or to misrepresent what the opponent is saying is on purpose, to look for even the smallest thing that could possibly be wrong with this person so I can disregard what they're saying. This is so important. If you want truth, you have to be willing to listen to people you disagree with. You have to be willing to address people's arguments directly. You have to be willing to see what the meat of that bone is. Of, okay, even if Neil's dumb and stupid and wrong, actually listen to the arguments. Be like, hey, okay, is there any truth to this at all? Is there anything at all? Be like Ryan and be like, just, hey, you know, there's some things that Ammon just doesn't have evidence for. There's some things, and then there's other things like the Dioscorides text that, okay, maybe there's a little something going on there. Okay. So, you know, let's ignore the comments. Well, I'm going to ignore the comments, even though apparently everybody's roasting Ryan here. That's a whole topic for another time. I'm not saying agree with Ryan on every single little point. Zach, thanks. I've studied a bit of psychology. I was a pure sports concert. Sweet, that's awesome. I'd love to hear your thoughts then. But of course, if I am saying something about psychology, then you know, I have some background in it. I'm still going to be like looking for challenges. So people will tell you, if I say something wrong about psychology, feel free to bring it up. I love to talk about psychology, prove wrong. If there's something I'm missing, I'd be happy to talk about. But anyway, so I think that there's a lot you can learn from this, you can learn from these comments about humans and whatever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know how I'm wrong. Never stay in your echo chamber. Always branch out. Hope you guys have a good one.